purpose of the series is basically to highlight kind of what's going behind the scenes. I know there's always a lot of questions of, oh, you guys are building, what's on the Explorer? Why is that not reflected yet? Like, what does it actually take to build a mobile network, right? So it's mainly to kind of highlight those factors and kind of show you guys what's happening behind the scenes with amazing companies such as LongFi. And yeah, today we have Andrew he's the co-founder and COO of LongFi Solutions. LongFi Solutions is a decentralized wireless deployment, kind of enterprise deployment company. And yeah, Andrew, I'll let you take it away, man. If you just want to give us some background and kind of the inception of LongFi. How did LongFi come about?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Sean and Steve. Good to see you again. I'm Andrew Warshauer, co-founder of LongFi Solutions, and I'm here on behalf. I have two other co-founders, so Josh and Jose are the other two with me, and it's just a really great group of dedicated, really passionate people that are trying to build in this kind of evolution of DeWi space. So you kind of hit on it there. We view ourselves as an enterprise deployer, and just kind of being a conduit for capital coming into the space and using that to go deploy, operate, maintain equipment on all these different projects that are kind of cropping up in the space. And XNET right now is kind of I would say like the top focus for us right now. Just based on kind of business priorities, and have been really impressed with the team and really excited just to come on and like chat with you guys here.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that intro, Andrew. Yeah, I think we met all the way back in October. That was kind of the first. I think I introduced you guys to our C-suite. We met Donald and Tom to chat about XNET. So yeah, if you want to kind of go back, right, like since we first had that intro meeting and now kind of like what's happened, how's your perspective changed, and like where do you see this going?
Yeah, sure thing. I think for us, it's a very evolving space. So I think when we first heard of XNET, it was kind of, oh wow, there's like another player in the DeWi space, and there's a little bit of maybe healthy skepticism about companies coming in kind of into this space. And so, obviously we try to do some research, understand what the background of the team is, and also look at things like, the tokenomic structure and what the kind of guiding principles are from a technical perspective. And, once we kind of dug into that, we really felt like XNET's taking a very like monitored and like smart approach to kind of cracking into the commercial side of things, which I think is the key unlock in decentralized wireless in terms of getting paid data onto a network. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where we all have to be kind of pointed towards as the kind of northern light in the system. So after kind of talking with Rich and hearing some of kind of his Richisms, I don't know what you guys call them at XNET, but just building for the long term, trying to not totally change the model up front, but kind of get in and then try to change things after you kind of build some success. So I think a lot of that resonated with us as a team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious where you first got started in DeWi, and then the evolution of your approach and how you see this landscape changing, and maybe contrast how you approach DeWi back then versus today.
Yeah, no, really great question. I think I have a similar kind of origin story as a lot of folks in the space. So I got involved in DeWi first with the Helium project, the original LoRaWAN network. So I was buddies with Josh. We worked together in Houston. We were both at an oil and gas company there as engineers, and we also ran on the track team together. Imagine like this corporate track team, but yeah, it was fun, and got to know him, stayed really close. And he one day came up and said, hey, like there's this new kind of technical project. I'm building this wireless network in Houston. He lived on one side of town. I lived on the other. So he kind of wanted to throw this antenna up on my roof. And so it's one of those things where you go down the rabbit hole, watch some YouTube videos and read a bunch of stuff on the internet. And you're like, wow, this is like a really transformational idea for how to build a wireless network. And so I kind of got hooked into it, and we were just kind of building more as a kind of a side project, kind of passion project, still both working our day jobs and kind of doing things on the side. But as things grew, and obviously, the network itself was growing really quickly, and there's a lot of excitement in the space. We kind of hit a crossroads where we both decided, hey, like if we're in, we got to be all in. And so we ended up forming, officially a company back in 2020, kind of in the summertime. And then by the end of kind of summer of 2021, we had both left our jobs and worked on it full time before incorporating into even more officially a C corporation within kind of the legal definitions, and hiring on some additional team members. We teamed up with Jose. He kind of became the third co-founder. And, as DeWi kind of evolved from the LoRa side of things to the cellular side, I think that gave us even more excitement in the space, because I think cellular is a much more tangible, understandable, and really just, everyday thing that people interact with in terms of their phones. So I think just the scale and the value of that market is obviously a lot higher. And so we felt that having a company where we could build at an enterprise level, that was kind of the future of the space in terms of having these key anchor companies that would, address a specific segment of the market or a specific area of the country. So it's not just one giant centralized organization. It's a bunch of these smaller organizations. And there's a few of them, around the country building kind of alongside of us. So a lot of people that are all in on DeWi and putting the money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Totally agree there. Cellular has the biggest promise, the biggest addressable market, and is the most tangible for everybody in our everyday lives. It's frankly, you approach a scale of, it's a utility in our lives that you can't really survive without it anymore. Whereas IoT is still a little bit intangible, a little bit for the technical people, and it's not something everyday people interact with. So what are you building on recently? Like what do your projects look like? What's the scale of the projects? How do you find sites? How do you attack that problem? Can you give us some insight?
Yeah, sure thing. I think the way that we are starting to align our views with, I think similar to what XNET has kind of talked about, is that you need to have a contiguous kind of coverage footprint. And as that footprint grows and densifies, that's where kind of the value unlock is in terms of pitching that on a commercial level. So the way that we're aligning our business development efforts and our deployment efforts is really just focused on key markets within urban environments, along the same vein as where XNET has put clusters. So the main one is obviously Houston. So like I mentioned, Josh and I met in Houston. He's still in Houston. I'm now in Denver. But we have Houston's kind of our core business area at the moment, while we also look into business development efforts in Denver. And there's a couple other markets across the country with more so strategic partnerships that we have that we're looking into as well. So in terms of the size, I think the immediate clusters that we're looking for are something like 10 to 15 radios per cluster. And again, getting back to the main point is the continuous nature of that coverage, and just having a really valuable footprint to go and then kind of hand back to XNET to go market.
Right on. I'm curious if you could give yourself some advice like 2 years ago about attacking cellular, like what would you say to yourself 2 years ago?
Man, 2 years ago, it's crazy to think back that far, because I feel like I've learned so much along the journey. I think the main thing in terms of building these networks, one is build for the long term, in terms of the setup quality, backhaul quality, and just overall parts, and you learn a couple of tricks of the trade in terms of what works and what doesn't and stands up in the weather. So that's one thing, because it would save a lot of headache of going back to sites and trying to fix our mistakes. And the other piece is, I think I kind of hit on earlier, is like you have to centralize your business development efforts to one location. And if your bubble of I don't know, exploration gets a little bit too big, you kind of pull yourself too thin, and you can't really put enough resources into one market to really make that like tangible, difference that you need to make. So those are the two, I think, big things.
You're totally right, because a lot of the contacts and network and relationships that you rely on to acquire sites also have a clustered mentality. Like brokerage firms have clusters. Like a broker's not going to cover in like the tri-state area. A broker will cover like a couple neighborhoods. And property management firms is another great opportunity here. Property management firms want efficiencies of scale in a limited geographic area. So they also have a clustered mentality. And so I think you're totally right. When you sharpen and narrow your focus towards building a cluster, like you can almost be a lot more efficient. And the product that comes out of this is a much higher quality. So that's one thing XNET carries into this DeWi space, is that you've got to have clusters, you've got to have density in order to create something of value. The way we emit tokens is structurally different from a lot of other projects where speed is the most important quality. But we know speed gets you kind of random footprint. Speed gets you not high quality footprint. And these are both like two of your biggest learnings for the past couple of years. So I think there's definitely this like people slowly but surely are coming to these kind of conclusions and thinking a little more long term. Sean, what would you have idea for next? We want to pull up the Explorer, talk about Houston in a little more detail.
Yeah, I think it's a great transition from you guys talking about what it takes to build actual value in this space for long term, to kind of give the viewers an insight into what a cluster looks like and what it took you guys to build. And I think on the last episode or podcast we're on, Steve, you said mission may be the densest CBRS footprint across decentralized wireless today. But I think these guys at LongFi may be giving you a little
run for our money.
A little run for your money, man.
All right, pull it up. Let's see. We got a little competition going.
Sure thing. Yeah, I think you still have us for sure, but we're putting up sites here in Houston. So I'm pulling up the map here. This is the XNET Explorer. I know you guys are familiar, but the colors of the clusters really matter here. So the gold is kind of the highest value, and then the silver is second tier in terms of value, and then the blue is really just which you can see all around is just deployable area. But as we keep getting back to, you kind of have to narrow that coverage to really create a high value product. So when we look at Houston, so Houston here this is the downtown kind of metro area here. And then it's almost like a spider web of highways that kind of go around it. So they call like 610. This is the loop. So everything's inside the loop is considered really core Houston. And then it just comes down to like different pockets and neighborhoods where you have accumulation of bars, restaurants, like high foot traffic areas. And so the two that we're really focusing on right now, one, this is where I used to live in Houston. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is called East Downtown or EDO. And this area was an old warehouse district and has now kind of, and you see this in a lot of cities, the warehouses are being converted into either like apartments, restaurants, bars. And there's a lot more of a vibrant like scene going on there. So the kind of the benefit is twofold. One is that you have this increased foot traffic, and two, you have old like big warehouses that aesthetically aren't like, they don't care as much about like having an antenna on the roof. So I think both of those kind of help us here. You can see like right now we have this one site here that we had to swap a gateway out. So it's kind of showing offline right now, but we have that one there. And I'm actually flying to Houston on Monday, and we'll be setting up a few more kind of in this cluster area here. The other area of the city, I'll kind of pan over to it on the left here. This is an area called Montrose. And again, it's a very much a high foot traffic area, lots and lots of nightlife in that spot. And so we've already started. You can see this is kind of our anchor site here, right on the corner of Westheimer and Dunleavy. Those are two kind of major roads in Houston. And we're looking to kind of bolster around this area and then up into this kind of gold cluster as well. We have a few contracts that we're working on. So that's kind of high level, kind of our strategy for Houston. And we think that kind of having that east cluster and this more like west cluster gives us good optionality of where to kind of dedicate resources in business development. So I'll pause there and I'll stop sharing my screen.
That's great. I mean, what's that saying about constraints cause creativity, or constraining your design space leads you to be more creative? I mean, it's exactly in play here too.
Yeah, definitely something like that.
And then if you kind of want to just give a high level summary, Andrew, on what type of hardware is going into there as well, just for the viewers to kind of understand.
Yeah, sure thing. The hardware for Houston that we've been using is primarily Blink. So as people in the community are familiar, the big kind of two players at the moment are Bicells and Blink. So Blink makes a really nice integrated radio antenna with 180-degree signal propagation. And, you know, it's, in terms of aesthetics, it's pretty good on top of a roof. You can barely notice it really, just compared to other like more macro sites. Or if, you know, there's like an AC unit on top of the roof, you can kind of just put it next to that and it really blends in. So we think that for Houston, at least, that's kind of the equipment we're going to go with. I think there's other cities where I think Bicells, you know, might make more sense. And it's really a, you know, toss up between the two in terms of quality, but it's more just what you have at your disposal at the time.
No, that's awesome to hear. Thanks for providing those details, man, just for the viewers to understand what it takes to build commercially kind of marketable and sellable product in terms of CBRS offload. And yeah, I mean, we're going to wrap up, but just last question, Andrew. Just wanted to know your 5-year outlook and your vision for decentralized wireless and where LongFi will be in that space along working with XNET.
Yeah, sure thing. I forget, there's some book that I read or some podcast or something. It talked about like how businesses that focus on the 5-year outlook are actually missing the point. I think they talk about having a like, you know, 6 to 12 month outlook and a 10 to 20 year outlook. But I do that. Obviously 5 years is still important. So I think if you zoom out that far, obviously, you know, our focus right now is just building a lot of competence and excellence in deployment and business development. And so I think, you know, as we kind of take that and create more of a, you know, market that, or sorry, a product that you can bring to market in different regions, I think it's a matter of just scaling the team up at that point and bringing in more people that are kind of passionate about DeWi and want to be building alongside us and alongside you guys and other companies in the space. So I would say the short term is just operational excellence and then scaling the business to where we can address multiple markets, not just Houston, Denver. It could be, you know, 5 or 10 like larger metro areas.
No,
amazing.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Andrew. Thanks for your time. Excited to see what we build and what we can sell. You know, that's kind of what we're all getting to. So excited to document this journey to paid data on XNET.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. See you, everyone.